Right. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming this morning. This is the first of our Lessons from TTA Members webinar. So it's a new concept. So please bear with us this morning as we figure out the format for the first one. I think we have a pretty decent plan. We're just going to try and keep it really simple. Essentially, I've arranged these sessions so that we can share best practice and explore what's possible in the tuition sector. So I'm really pleased to announce our esteemed panel of TTA members this morning. I'll ask them to introduce themselves one by one so that you can get to know them a little bit more. So first, we have Mandeep.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Lovely to virtually meet you all and looking forward to the conversation with you all today. Just a quick introduction about myself. So as mentioned, my name is Mandeep. I'm the director and the founder of the Scholar Private Tutoring. We offer private services predominantly to secondary school students, and we dabble a little bit in 11+, but try not to get into too much. We're mainly focused on STEM, English, economics, and other niche subjects on demand. And we also act as educational consultants. And the biggest question I always get is, what on earth is an educational consultant? So what we consult on is school placements, anything that families want help with, university choices, subject choices, IB versus A-level, and anything that we have a specialism in, basically. And also, we're now developing into a growing demand that we're seeing for admissions, especially across 16+. We also coach on interview and application prep. We're seeing a huge demand and interest in US universities. Most of our clients are from an independent sector background across the UK and within Europe as well. More generally, my background is I come from a teaching background as a secondary maths teacher. I taught at King Edward's Birmingham Boys, which is a great secondary school in Birmingham, 5 years, left 2 years, have been tutoring since my time of doing my degree, which was maths at Birmingham some time ago, and then went full-time 3 years ago now, and have developed the business a year after. And I'm also currently doing my master's at Oxford in education and learning. So yeah, I've benefited a lot from the TTA, the amazing members, and I'd say the guidance, as I was saying to the rest of the team earlier, has saved me so much time and money. So I'm here just to help you all, hopefully, learn and share from you all, and hopefully guide anyone that's following in a similar path that I am, with overcoming any obstacles that I might be able to help with. So yeah, excited to meet you all and hopefully to connect with you all after as well.
Thank you, Mandeep. And next we've got Kirsty. Oh, Kirsty, you're muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Hello, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Kirsty Fox. I am founder and principal at Love to Learn Education. I'm based in Birmingham, like Mandeep. We are specialist tuition providers and also alternative provision providers focused on children and young people with special needs and disabilities. And we particularly focus on supporting those that are unable to access the main school offering. I've worked in education for almost 20 years. My background's as a special needs teacher. I started as a solo tutor just over 4 years ago, and I built Love to Learn Education into a small team. We work alongside families, schools and local authorities, and we aim to provide flexible, relational educational support. Like Mandeep, I'm also studying towards my master's. One of the perks that I found of developing your own education business is that you can invest in yourself and your team, which is something I really enjoy. So I think now the work that I do sits at an intersection. So I still tutor, but there's a lot of safeguarding, developing systems, partnership working with schools and local authorities, and business development as well.
Thank you, Kirsty. So I was just pinning the panel, but it will only let me pin 3 people at a time. So I'm going to unpin you in a minute. So you're going to see yourselves go off again, just to let everyone know. Next up is Andy.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Andy Gardner. I have a tutor agency in Harrogate called Up Your Grade. I founded it over 10 years ago. I was a secondary science teacher, A-level biology teacher from 2005 to 2013, and then I decided to become a personal trainer. So I did that for a little while and set up a gym, and then quickly fell back into tutoring. So I did a lot of science tutoring and PT. So yeah, I was like bookending the day and developed a tutor agency over many years, and yeah, I really enjoy doing it. So I don't tutor anymore myself, and I don't PT myself. I just run these 2 businesses from Harrogate, and it's mainly a little bit of primary, but mainly secondary GCSE subjects and A-level subjects. And yeah, maths, English, science is the core, but yeah, we kind of do all the main subjects at secondary level. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. And last up is Vicki.
Morning, everybody. So I have a face-to-face tuition centre in South Manchester. It's called Count on Me Tuition. We have expanded now to do from Key Stage 1 up to GCSE, maths and English, and we do quite a lot of 11 plus. The area that I'm in is quite a grammar school hotspot. So I've got a little team. It's all face to face, and it's almost exclusively like group tuition as well. And then some of you might know me from Tutors Who Thrive, or Tutor Fest as well. So yeah, that keeps me busy too.
Thanks, Vicki. Perfect. Right, I am just going to set out the session format for everybody. So we are going to ask all of the audience, if you haven't already, please can you mute yourselves? And then the first part of this session, we will be going through 5 questions for our panelists to answer for you. And then in the second part of the session, it will be any questions that you've got on anything that they have said already, and then any other questions that you've got that you would like them to answer. So our first question is, what motivated you to move from solo tutoring into building a tuition business? And just so that I don't put everybody on the spot, I'm going to go back in exactly the same order as I just did, but then I'll mix it up a little bit so they take turns. So Mandeep, would you like to let everybody know your answer?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had the kind of, I had the fortune of starting my teaching career at one of the best schools in Birmingham, which is kind of a school that people try and finish off with. So I went into an amazing independent boys school, really enjoyed it. I was there for 5 years, but then I realized actually that it's quite hard to build up within the school. There are a lot of people that have been sitting there waiting for spaces for a long time, and the demand is quite fierce. So at that point, my wife was pregnant with our first daughter, and I was at a bit of a crossroads. I think, right, if I don't move now or try something new, I'm going to get comfortable here and be here for the rest of my life, which wasn't a bad thing, by the way. But at the same time, I thought now is the chance, whilst the kids are young, I've got 2 young daughters now, to try something new. So I was at a crossroads between going into becoming a tech analyst or tutoring. And my wife nudged me to say, try tutoring for a bit of time. I'd been tutoring since university. And then, yeah, once I actually took the jump, I did kind of, for about 6 months, I did tutoring every evening, as well as working to see if it was viable. And I realized very quickly once word got out that it was. I was quite fortunate because of the clientele at school, word of mouth, people trusted me and knew me, that the demand grew very, very quickly. And that made me realize actually it's quite viable. So I think the biggest motivation for me was to try something new, build something of my own, and not limit myself to being stuck in a school for the next 20, 30 years, knowing that I could go back at any time because I'm a secondary maths teacher and there's always demand for it. And also I felt that I have a really good eye for understanding what makes a great educator. And that's why I really enjoy my role now of finding and tutoring and hiring educators and placing them with the right families. And I feel that I've got a really good eye for that. So I wanted to make the most of that skill. And here we are directing about 15 very close-knit tutors, and all of our tutoring is done on a one-to-one basis. So yeah, I think the flexibility, having time with kids, and also just having the chance to grow something of my own and just develop in a whole new space, which, as Kirsty mentioned, gives you the time to do that. Otherwise, it's very difficult, especially with kids. So yeah, that's what got me here.
Thank you, Mandeep. I do genuinely wonder, like, how many people's stories start with, my wife was pregnant, because John and I have a really similar story. Kirsty, your turn.
Okay, just checking I'm not muted again. So I started self-employed in September 2021 tutoring, and because I'd just come out of a special needs school, I immediately sort of advertised myself as a special needs tutor. I also signed up with a couple of agencies, and I got some daytime work through them. And I really enjoyed the work. I really enjoyed working one-to-one with students and being able to design sessions that met their needs. And I also found that there are a lot of children in Birmingham and all over the country, but Birmingham is a real hotspot. There's a lot of children with special needs that are out of school. And I started working with a few families, and I found that really rewarding, because their kind of relief to find someone that could meet the needs of their child after they'd been out of school for, you know, months or years was so palpable, and I found it so rewarding. So I really enjoyed it, but I quickly found within that first year that I couldn't meet all of the needs of those children. You know, if a child's not going to school, they might need, you know, different subjects that I couldn't offer, or parents were asking me, you know, for secondary science, or so within that academic year, I think by June 2022, I realised I needed to start bringing people on board, just because I wanted to meet the needs of the children, and I realised I couldn't do that single-handedly. So that's when I formed my limited company, and started subcontracting. So yeah, it was quite a reactive. I didn't go out there and say, like, I want to start a business. I just kind of got carried along with the momentum of it, really. And I always say a little bit of it was not being able to say no. So somebody would say, like, can you do this? And I was like, oh, I can't, but I'll find someone who can. And yeah, just realised there was a real need there. And then all of our growth has been through word of mouth, which I'm kind of proud of, but isn't a very good marketing decision either, I realise now. And so we started getting inquiries from schools, and that again was through parents that worked in the schools that had heard of us. So we just grew naturally like that, really.
That's amazing. Equally though, if you have had like a proper marketing plan, then you'd have probably been even more overwhelmed than perhaps you were. Amazing. Thank you so much. Andy, you're next.
Yeah, very similar story actually to Mandeep and Kirsty in many ways. Yeah, my wife was pregnant. I was not particularly enjoying school after 8 years at the school I was in, and I decided, my wife just said, just stop moaning about it, get on with doing something you want to do. So the personal training came from that, and yeah, it was a great move, got me outside, got me networking, and I just randomly bumped into a web developer who became my first business partner for the first 5 years. And actually that helped massively, because I would have really struggled, I think, to get a web presence without him. So I'm very, very grateful for that. We're not together now, but yeah, very grateful for that. And it was really, I was working in the mornings as a PT and doing tutoring in the evenings, and had this kind of 20-25 hours of work, and I just thought, is this me now? You know, am I trapped doing this number of hours and this amount of income? And like, you know, Kirsty and Mandeep said, I was just getting asked for other subjects that I just couldn't fulfill. So I had a lot of colleagues in schools, and yeah, you know, with my business partner, we just kind of developed a very kind of loose framework, you know, doing reference checks, doing DBS checks. But I ultimately did know those tutors, so I did feel kind of safeguarding wise taking them on. But then, yeah, it was very much over time. I had a lot of time in the day, and then I used that. I really like doing admin on my own. I know that sounds sad, but I think if you're going to run a tuition business, you do need to like admin, and you do need to like working by yourself, I would say, in contact with other people. But yeah, I just enjoyed that kind of freedom to just do what I wanted to do. And yeah, yeah, I've got 60 tutors now that I work with regularly, you know, hundreds of parents. And we'll talk about this later, but systems and processes have been critical to kind of scaling it. But yeah, it's nice when it's under control. That's why I enjoy now, and people are happy.
Thank you, Andy. And Vicki.
So I was teaching for quite a long time and left, and was probably not in a great place personally at the time, but so when I decided to go into tutoring, I was like, okay, this is sort of last chance, so see if I can, because I loved the teaching side of things, but like Andy just said, I like to do my own thing, got fed up of being told what to do, that sort of thing. And so I wanted to keep the teaching, and so I started doing the tuition, and I really was determined to curate the life that I wanted. So I have got 2 girls, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to tutor every single night of the week, because it's just not possible with having to then find childcare. I'm a single parent, so I committed to, I'm only doing 2 evenings a week, and I actually started by saying I'm going to do group tuition because I knew that that would maximize my time. And I loved it. Like, I actually think it was really healing for me as well. The rewarding side of it. And what started to happen was that then, you know, because I only did 2 evenings, it was quite limiting for clients. So if they couldn't do those times, and it was groups as well, which makes it even tighter. So if they couldn't fit in with me, then I was like thinking, oh, I'm turning them away then. So that's how, so gradually I was like, well, I don't want to keep sending people away. So I, you know, got somebody else on board, and it sort of, you know, snowballed from there. And I found that quite, like, probably a bit addictive actually as well. Like, I think I've become like addicted to the growth, and I do have an impulsive streak as well. So when I get an idea, I'm like, right, let's go all in. And yeah, so it sort of just has sort of organically grown from there over time, but pretty quickly, I suppose, as well.
Thanks, Vicki. Thank you, everyone. I feel like there's a really diverse range of reasons why, whilst also all almost having underlying currents of like the same reason of what motivated you, and why you then eventually grew a tuition business. Our next question is, what were the biggest challenges in your first year of running a team or growing your business model? So Vicki, I don't know if you'd like to go first this time, please.
Okay. I think finding the right people to be on your team is so hard, and especially at first, because so I was fortunate at first that the very first tutor who I, you know, added to my team was somebody who I already knew really, really well and like really trusted. So that didn't feel so scary. But then as I grew the team more and more, I ran out of people who I actually knew personally, and then had to take the great big leap into the unknown with strangers. But I have, you know, so far been quite, you know, really lucky that the people who I have met and, you know, taken on have, well, so I think you get a feeling when you meet somebody, like, are they on your wavelength? And that's really what I've gone with, like the gut feeling. So, you know, my team is amazing, and we all have the same kind of values and outlook, and the way that we communicate, the way that we work with the children is all really, really similar, which I feel really proud of. But that trust is so difficult, because no matter how much you do trust other people and how good they are at their job, it is your business and nobody else's, and nobody else is going to love it the same way that you do and nurture it the same way that you do. So I think that is what's challenging, and, you know, not underestimating the change, I suppose, in your role, and then the workload and that sort of thing as well.
Thanks, Vicki. Yeah, I think as soon as you found your people who are on your, like, on the same wavelength and share values, it's a ginormous part of the puzzle in kind of things falling into place, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Andy, would you like to go next, please?
Yeah, so similar to Vicki again. So some of the challenges that I had was because I was working with a web designer, and I don't advocate, you know, a website is not critical to get this underway, but it was kind of what I was stuck with. So I would say we got bogged down with it though. We got the website up and running in 3 weeks, and it was like everything we were focusing on. And really, you've got to focus on, you know, finding the right team, just thinking through your processes, you know, your brand, your logo, all that stuff that can come later. And I think we did get bogged down in like trying to design a system for kind of reconciling all our payments. And you know, it didn't seem it at the time, but I look back now and I think actually we could have done something a bit different there, really. And we kind of rushed into creating a finished product, and it's never finished. You know, your website is never finished. It's always going to be tweaked, and you don't quite know how you're going to work until you've kind of started it. So I think you've got to, like Vicki said, take that leap of faith. You've got to start working with people you're not quite sure of, even with people you know you don't always get the match right. But, and again, like what Mandeep says, you do get really good at matching people up. And I would say, yeah, well over 95% of our matches are really good, solid matches, but you can't get them all right. And I think, yeah, it's difficult, but you've got to be brave. I think that's the first year difficulty.
Yeah, I think the kind of like ability to be able to pivot and knowing that you're going to need to be able to pivot, having this idea and building everything and wanting to go that way is one thing, and it's great and it is really brave. But having that nimbleness to know when you need to pivot as well and think, okay, well, I kind of had this idea of how I thought it needed to be in my head, but actually now all of a sudden all my inquiries are coming from over here and it's something entirely different. And it's kind of like, how do you react to everything at the same time as well, whilst stepping into the unknown is such a big step. Thank you, Andy. Kirsty.
Yeah, so the mistakes that I made were many in my first year, I'd say. I made a lot of mistakes. And I think a lot of that comes from, as I said earlier, the fact that I sort of drifted into it. I didn't drift in, because I did form a limited company. I did certain things that I needed to do, like I got my contracts written by a lawyer. I did some branding and that sort of thing. But what I always say, like, you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know anything about running a business, and I didn't actually, at the time when I started the business, realize that that's what I was doing. I kind of just saw it as bringing on more tutors and doing more of the same. And I was very reactive to the work that we had coming in. So if we had a client that wanted a lot of hours, I would be running around trying to find people for that and trying to make it work. And it wasn't until quite a while later that I actually realized, you know, being a tutor and running a business are two completely different skill sets. And I needed to educate myself about how businesses work. And I did a few things like a mentoring scheme with Santander, and I got a business coach, and, you know, read some books about business and looked at things like, you know, what is our profit margin? Because I charged too little and I paid my tutors too much at the beginning, and my profit margin was so small. So for quite a while, I wasn't really making a huge amount of profit. I wasn't really running a successful business. We were doing more business, but I wasn't making more. I wasn't earning more money out of it. So actually taking a step back and looking at, right, what does it mean to run this business in terms of my time, you know, the systems that we need to put into place. And with complex SEND cases, all of the liaison with schools, all of the reading of reports, all of the attending annual reviews, all of that time has to be factored into that. And I wasn't doing that at the beginning, and I realized I couldn't deliver the service that I wanted to unless I changed my model. So yeah, that's been a huge learning curve. It took a few years, and I'd say probably only in the last 12 to 18 months have I started to realize actually what's involved in running the business successfully. And a lot of that as well is getting the right help. So I know Lucy's in here, so I'm working with Lucy at Supportive Stories, and she's amazing, and she's just helped to really up-level our safeguarding systems and our safer recruitment systems. And I've now got admin support and getting all of that support around the tuition to make sure that, you know, we're doing a really good job and we're delivering a really good service.
Thank you, Kirsty. Mandeep?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sam. Thank you. I've got 5 things that came to mind out of the millions, and I'll try and skim through them all, but hopefully give you all a good insight. I think the first thing that everyone's already touched upon is trusting people with your baby, which is always the hardest thing. But what I've always realized in my own work at school is the greatest managers are those that let people exercise autonomy and not micromanage. So I think, as people have already alluded to, I think Vicki mentioned it and Andy as well, is especially when you're trying to outsource that trust and get other people involved, always start with people that you know personally. And then when that threshold has kind of been exercised, then start to go into the online interviews. So start small, but start with something you're a bit more comfortable with. And also, I think understanding and learning, as Kirsty mentioned brilliantly, that part of your business plan should be actually to develop yourself. So that's getting a coach, getting a mentor, reading books. And when you look at the lives of other successful people, you realize actually what you're going through is what they've gone through, but your super speed your journey, because they'll give you the wisdom within a book rather than having to make the mistakes over 5 years. And one of the things I picked up was that the big and most successful people have only got to where they've got because they've got help involved around them, and they've never done it on their own. And that actually gave me quite a bit of a push to actually start searching for the opportunities and asking for that help. And with other people, I'd say be super clear on what you're expecting. Like, over communicate to them. Don't assume people understand unless it's blatantly obvious. And that includes WhatsApp messages. Make an email. Try not to rely on WhatsApp. Make things professional from the offset and go with emails. So I think that's the first thing, trusting. But again, you got to take the leap. Secondly, I think it's understanding my worth. This took a while, and the kind of background I have is in the independent sector, and with that you come with a lot of high net worths and ultra high net worths. A lot of parents that we work with are literally millionaires, and they're very headstrong, and they have a very interesting idea as to what the service should be. And I think understanding how to navigate that, it got me reading a lot of books about negotiation, conversation, the psychology of building relationships, and I really enjoyed that part of my development. And also, it's actually worked. I now know if there's a really fierce lawyer in Singapore of a parent that wants their kid to get a 9, but he's aiming for a 7, how do I navigate that conversation without burning the bridge? And I really enjoyed that. I think that's one of the probably most difficult parts. So definitely spend time learning about those things. The third thing I would say is knowing what to spend money on early on. This was really difficult, especially when money is limited. An example I had was I had a decision to go with a £3,000 website or a £1,000 website. I went with the £3,000 one, which was a really big hit, but I haven't touched it in the past 5 years. And one of the biggest things people say to me is actually your website's amazing. So I slightly disagree with Andy to a certain extent. I think getting your brand and getting the basics of what people are going to view you as is really important. But agreeing with Andy at the same time is once it gets to 80 or 90% of what you're happy with, don't let it disable you, because you'll be figuring out the 10% for the rest of your life. So be very wary of that. The fourth thing I've mentioned is finding guidance. I think tutoring, it's gotten much better now, but the industry can be very lonely, especially if it's just you. So I'm eternally grateful, literally, to the TTA that I've opened up this community, and at the events where I've found mentors and asked people questions that have saved me a lot of time and money. So I think make yourself known and get out there. What I've found, not just from tutoring, but generally people in business, is that they're very happy to help. You just have to make yourself known and put your arm out, basically. So get used to it, and they're not going to look at you to think, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. Oftentimes, they'll welcome you with open arms. And accept that for the first 1 or 2 years, you're in your experimental phase. You're not expected to have ironed things out. And I think mentally, if you understand that I'm trying things out, I'm going to figure things out, there's going to be mistakes, then you enjoy that process a lot more. The last thing I would say is define your niche. I think the tutoring business the tutoring demand within the UK and across the world is booming, but obviously the suppliers are also booming as well. So it's quite a fierce market. And I would say define your niche, become a master in a few things rather than trying to do everything, which is what we always do. So for example, for me, what that means is actually staying away from 11+, because I don't enjoy it as much. We do on-demand services where we've worked with families before. But for me, that's becoming a specialist at the IGCSE syllabus, IB, A-level, and admissions, and really becoming the go-to person for those things. And I think knowing what you do really, really well sells better as well. And then people trust you with that select service. And as a result, you can charge a higher rate. So I think, yeah, try and define what your parameters are and just double down on it.
Thank you all. Yeah, thank you for the shout out about TTA as well. I mean, it literally is what we are here for. The more that we can support all of our members, and I know that we've also got quite a few non-members on the call today as well. The more that we can support you all in your tutoring journey, the more that it supports our industry and the profession, the more we can set really good standards, and the more that we can help you all to succeed as well. So yeah, I mean, I've been there where you've made every mistake under the sun and it just takes time and learning, and the more that we can help people not to make mistakes, the better. Amazing. So our next question is, how has your role changed and what does your day-to-day look like now? Andy, I don't know if you can go first, please.
Yeah, so it changed. I was doing, up till 2020, I was doing kind of probably 15 to 18 hours a week of tutoring. So I was driving all over the place. None of it was online. And then, yeah, so since COVID, the tuition business side of things has definitely been my focus. And I have an office now. So I've had an office for the last 5 years. And it's either I take all the calls. That's still my role, is taking the initial call with the parents. And then I have, yeah, an admin team. So I have a lady then who's my tuition coordinator, absolutely amazing. She does about 40 hours a month of emailing. So she does all the emailing with the tutors and the parents, and that has been amazing. She's really good at that. And then I have another lady that does all my social media, and what else does she do? She does all my finances. You've really got to know your numbers. If you run a business through software, you will generate a huge amount of data, and it needs organizing, and all your banking ins and outs need organizing. You need to know eventually what you're spending money on, what your profit margins are, what your bank fees are. You need to know everything, and it is possible. I didn't do it for a little while, and then my mentor said, we need to get this done. And it's just something now that one of my admin people, Claire, she just does it every month, and I don't have to do it anymore, but I've got the long-term kind of view on it, and it's critical over time. So yeah, I do a lot of courses that my local authority, this is something that I know not every local authority offers, but the Growth Hub in North Yorkshire is absolutely amazing. And I'm doing something every week, either a webinar, an in-person meeting, peer group meeting. So if you look at your Growth Hub, some are better than others, but that really it fills my week in a good way, and it helps my business, definitely. Yeah.
Thanks, Andy. I'm rubbish at trying to mix things up a little bit. Mandeep, would you like to go next, please?
Yeah, no worries. I think in terms of going from private tutoring to running a tutoring agency, naturally you try and offload the hours that you're spending tutoring and shift that to developing the business. So I'd say I'm probably that scale is constantly trying to level out. I'm still probably spending 70% of my time tutoring and 30% managing the business. But as time goes on, I'm trying to balance that out just so there's more flexibility. I think what I'm trying to focus on now is just more time to think. And this, again, is something I picked up from a really great podcaster that I follow. She's an ex-banker, businesswoman. And she made the point that often we don't book in time just to sit and think about what's going on. And if we don't have that time to think about business, and I do it for life, fitness, everything else as well, you just end up reacting to everything that comes your way. So I try and have a think day every month where I go to the park, no devices, and I just think, right, am I happy with how my business is running? How the tutor is running? And from those points, from those think days, all my best ideas have come. My thought to apply for a master's came from that think day. So I think it's really important as part of your business plan, it's very easy to fill that slot once you put it in because you think, oh, I'll think about it another time, right? But that is key, I would say, to actually taking stock of what's going on and redirecting the ship in whichever way you wanted to go. At the moment, more time is on interviewing, finding the right people, creating systems now. I'm at my infancy stage, but now I think I've got a good idea as to where we want to go. Again, Lucy and Katie, I literally been speaking to them last week. And I think one of the biggest things for me, due to the kind of clientele we have, is how do I create an amazing experience for students and families? And again, because of the kind of demographic I deal with, a lot of ultra high net worths and high net worths, for them, it's all about personal connection. So I'm in Birmingham. Every other month, at least, I'll go to London for a few days and just literally meet parents for a coffee. For them, for those people, putting a face to the name, meeting me in person, talking about kids and life and things other than tutoring. I think 80% of our conversation is not even about their kids or tutoring. It's just about general life. For them, that's what sells it. And then they recommend me to their friends and all the rest of it. So now it's actually, how do I use my time as the brand and the face to do more of that stuff and then outsource all the other things like Andy mentioned in terms of systems and getting other people involved. So yeah, don't underestimate the power of having a coffee with someone, especially parents and tutors.
Thank you. I think also the power of pausing. I like your idea. So Julius and I glamorously yesterday have just planned a whole week of kind of not moving forwards and just reflecting and trying to get all of, you know, the admin bits that build up and you're like, oh yeah, we really need to do this, we really need to do that. So for anybody who wants us the 4 days after Easter Monday, we're not available, but we will hopefully have some really good automations and systems after that, that we have been meaning to build for a while. Thank you, Mandeep. Kirsty.
Yes, so I also still tutor. I am slowly cutting down my tutoring hours. I'm about 8-10 hours a week now. But I would say, like, generally my days are just really busy now, and they're really varied, which I enjoy. I try to have, I definitely had a better work-life balance a few years ago when I wasn't trying to develop the business as much as I am now. And like you, Vicky, I can be a bit impulsive. I like to say spontaneous, that's more positive. But if I get a new idea, I really want to run with it. And I've had to learn to slow myself down a bit and say, like, yes, I like that idea. And maybe we can do that in the summer, or maybe we can do that next year. We're going through a big systems overhaul at the moment. So we've done our safer recruitment system, and now we're moving on to like the inquiry system and just systemizing everything so that we have like a really clear model for the way the business works, so that we can grow and keep our standards how we want them to be. So a lot of my time is spent, like I said, working with Lucy, putting systems in place, liaising with the admin team. We've got a really busy WhatsApp for our tutors. We've got almost, it's a little bit like a recruitment agency in the morning, because I'll get a lot of WhatsApps and calls that students aren't in school or tutors are not in. So there's a lot of that every morning. I'm DSL as well, so we get safeguarding things that come up. I've got an annual review today that I only found out about on Tuesday, so I had to quickly prepare a report for that and prepare to go to that meeting. And so, yeah, it's really varied. It's really exciting. I've started to do things like go to more conferences, like the TTA conference, which I've been to for the last 2 years. I didn't find the TTA actually until I've been tutoring for about 2 years. So connecting with the wider network of tutors and other businesses, and I went to an alternative provision conference last week. That was really good as well. And it just helps you. I'm not very good, Mandeep, at taking whole days. I might do like a 5-minute think, but I do like going and meeting with other people and getting different perspectives, which I didn't do enough of at the beginning. Yeah, sorry, bit of a ramble, but just it's very busy, it's very enjoyable, and it's a little bit chaotic.
Interesting. Equally, you're investing in your processes at the moment, right? So the more that and I'm sure Lucy will agree with this as well, but the more that you can get your processes to work for you, then, and automate the bits that really we don't. I know that everybody's a little bit kind of like, oh, AI is going to steal our jobs, right? I don't think that it can replace a lot, but it can replace the jobs where you don't really need a human to do them anymore. Like, you know, I've had this inquiry, please send them this email and put them in this spreadsheet and then follow up in a week and yada, yada, yada. We don't need to be, I mean, we still need to be training younger generations so that we have these entry-level roles, but at the same time, especially when you're growing a business, I think that trying to take some of that workload off of us, especially when we don't have the funds to be hiring a lot of extra people to do it, and then hopefully that balance will start coming back as well.
Yeah. I also think it's that mental, and you can only keep so much information in your head. So having somewhere that you you put all of your ideas. So again, Lucy introduced me to Trello, so everything goes into my Trello board, and also just knowing that, you know, I do the client call, I do the initial email, which is now all templates, but then from there it's picked up by the admin team, and it's somewhat automated, but we still have that human touch, and that just allows me to relax and focus on doing other things.
Yeah. Thank you. Vicky?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this as other people were talking. So a bit like you were saying, Kirsty, I'm in the process now as well of like just the systemization and trying to get things so that it's the standard procedure, so it's not me who has to do everything. So because really what I'm looking at now is like, how do I start to take a bit more of a step back and hand more things over? And that's probably only really because, I mean, so I only teach 8 hours a week, which has been the same like from the start, like I said earlier, because that's what I chose to do. So I still am doing that, and even though it sounds very little, I know I need to step back from that as well, but I just can't bear it to give up the kids, because I form that relationship and then I don't want to let go of them. But that's what my plan is for the new academic year in September. And yeah, so I think that the role changes in terms of the responsibility that I think you feel, and that that mental load, the headspace, because you are having to hold on to everything, like Kirsty was just saying as well. And that can become stressful. So finding ways where it's not you who is holding everything is really important. I think, like, for me personally, because as I mentioned earlier as well, like that addiction to the business growth that has sparked in me, that this is all stemmed from, because now I'm like, oh, well, this is going really well, so I'll just and I had a really quite happy work-life balance and things, and then decided like, oh, let's just start another business, and those sorts of things. So that was all sort of crept in. So I'm doing so much more work now with Richard and Tutors Who Thrive, and now Students Who Thrive, and planning Tutor Fest and all those things, because I, to be honest, just have genuinely really fallen in love with the tuition industry as well. And yeah, so I'm a lot busier, but like also a lot happier. I absolutely love it. So even though I keep saying I'm going to remove myself from the teaching, I know that I'll hold on to a few of them for a bit longer, because I am also addicted to that as well.
Thanks, Vicky. Yeah, I mean, John is incredibly similar. I mean, he is now TTA's president. He does quite a bit of work for TTA as well. On top of that, we've got an edtech platform, but each week he still tutors a good number of hours each week, because he has had these families for quite a while and he just doesn't want to not tutor. I mean, anybody who has ever had a chat with John, as long as it hasn't been about compliance or VAT, you'll know his passion of just any subject that he's talking about is just so inspiring. And I just think that, especially when you just already have that love for teaching, and not teaching in a classroom sense, but just teaching and telling people about these things and finding these really innovative and fun ways to share them, it's just kind of really hard to, I mean, I don't, but I can imagine it would just be really hard to not do that and to not want to share that passion with people. Thank you all. So we did have questions 4 and 5, but what I have done, messed it all up. What I have done is, there we go. I've amalgamated questions 4 and 5, because I think that my general plan was that we were going to have like 1 minute each to answer the question, but actually your answers have been so much more helpful. So I haven't wanted to kind of like rush things through, but we have also touched on, I think, both of these points. I was wondering, last question, you could maybe just pick one of them, or just any lasting kind of like pieces of advice, really, or what I think we did the biggest thing that you would have done differently, but just your lasting impact to kind of help anybody else that's listening. So Kirsty, would you like to go first, please?
Yeah, I think just what I said earlier about take a little bit of time to consider what business you want to actually create before you start creating it. Get the right help around you, whether that's a business coach or other help. Read a couple of business books and just sit down and work on your business model. Like Mandeep said, what is your niche? What is your offering? What is it that you really enjoy doing? What do you want your role in the business to be? and how are you going to grow the business, and just take a step back and consider that before you scale and grow.
Thank you, Kirsty. Mandeep?
Sure. So I think, as I've already mentioned, start with your subject niche and understand, especially in the first 2-3 years and for the rest of life, there are going to be lots of mistakes, wrong hires, awkward clients, all the rest of it. And I remember reading something the other day where someone explained mistakes in a really interesting way. They said that if you knew that in 11 mistakes time, you're going to hit the jackpot, you'd really quickly want to make those 11 mistakes so you could get there. And that changed my whole perspective on it, that a mistake isn't something to kind of beat yourself up about. It's actually a really good milestone because you'll pivot and iterate from there and realize you're getting better. So I think viewing mistakes in quite like a welcoming way is a sign of progress and something that you should kind of welcome, if that makes sense. And the quicker you overcome those things, the better. I've already mentioned, make time for yourself to develop and think. And the biggest thing I think in most fields is go out and meet people. I've found since I've left school and, I interact with a fraction of the people that I do on a daily basis now, is you have to leverage, and I mean leverage in a really positive way, not in a cunning way. You have to leverage every relationship. So, make yourself known and show people that you're keen, you're interested, you want to learn from them, and you have something to offer. When you go to a conference, make sure you ask a question to someone on the panel and then go and speak to them after as well. Take an email, connect with them on LinkedIn, ask questions, be really nosy. I would say be as nosy as you possibly can in a genuine and respectful way, because you won't know what's out there until you start speaking to people. And I know a lot of people have mentioned about being really clear on what it is you want to provide. I would say don't get too bogged down on that. Just start with something you're good at, because once you start and you start interacting with people, you'll figure out what else it is you can start providing. Like, for example, with me now, I'm going into this whole consulting realm that I didn't even know existed. And then there's like another realm of business mentoring and coaching that I had no idea I'd even be interested in. But it's just because you start, you open up your kind of horizons to other things and you speak to people. And the last thing I would say is that it can be very overwhelming. There's so much going on. I need systems. How do I embed AI? I need an accounting software. I need some contracts. I would say get really good at chunking things and understanding that, like chip away at things. So in my head, I'll take an example of understanding contracts. You know that you need to get contracts into your business. Don't worry about getting the final stage. Just think, okay, on Tuesday, I'm just going to start searching what's available. I'm going to spend half an hour and make some notes on what's available. The next week, I'm going to spend another half an hour thinking about, okay, what do I actually need? The following week, I'll actually ring someone, chunk it out. Otherwise, it's really overwhelming. And if you do that across the board, within 6 months, you would have completed most of the things you needed to. Otherwise, you just kind of sit there thinking this is too scary. So get really comfortable with chunking and realize that it takes time, but just create slow momentum, because that's key, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, so I don't know if anybody else has watched it yet, but I completely binged Gordon Ramsay on Netflix at the weekend. But they make mistakes bit. So he's opening a new restaurant and he does a dry run. So it's kind of like the dry opening before the opening. And he said, the more mistakes you make, the better. If we weren't making mistakes on that day, something is wrong. So I obviously it is painful to make mistakes, but see it as a learning opportunity. It's not something where you're actually doing something wrong, but it's just something where you need to tweak something. So you can always get something positive out of a mistake rather than not making them. So try and see that in a positive light as well. Thank you, Mandeep. Vicki?
Yeah, so totally agree with what you just said, Sam, about, everything is a lesson, even though it's painful at the time. Things will go wrong, but it will be okay. I think it was in the first year, this just terrible, like perfect storm of a week where just due to like very different circumstances, I basically ended up doing like loads of cancellations. I just dropped the ball all over the place. I think I was, so I had tutors who were unwell. I think I was as well, or there was some sort of issue. And I probably like lost about $1,000 that week in income. And I think on top of that, I got like a speeding fine and a parking fine in the same week. And I was just like, oh my God, when will it end? But it was okay. I survived. And yeah, everything is just like, okay, well, what can I learn from this? How can I prevent this maybe from happening again? Slowing down on the motorway, that sort of thing. So yeah, and then I would also say, so just things will go wrong, we just have to go with it. I think the difficult or easy thing would be, I probably just have a bit of a belief or a mindset that everything can be as difficult or as easy as you would like it to be. So if you dwell on the difficult bits, then you know, it's going to feel harder. But if you know that, well, we just have to get through it, well, how are we going to do it, you know, and have that kind of like mindset towards things, like that really helps. Asking for support, definitely connecting with other tutors. Like I love TTA and I love going to all the events and things. Sam is amazing at organising everything. And also, you know, we know that we have Tutors Who Thrive as a big community that I absolutely also am in love with. But look for support, look for where you can get it. Andy mentioned earlier the like local council, like growth hubs. So mine is the same, and they've been amazing. I got hired like a mentor, business mentor for free from the council for a while. Also, just a cheeky shout out to Richard, because his course is fantastic. Like, and I can genuinely say that hand on heart, because when I started, I did that course with Rich before we knew each other properly. So that's things like that will propel you so much faster towards, you know, creating like a proper business. And then the other thing that I just wanted to touch on is like, be yourself. Don't think that you have to fit in with the way that other people do things. Like, the more yourself you can be, the more quickly you will attract the right clients who will love you and you will love them. And I'm just going to pick on something that Mandeep said before, because I think you mentioned about starting in a professional way with emails, and it kind of bugs me sometimes when people sort of associate being formal with being professional. Like, I know that I have quite an informal approach in life generally, but with my clients, when parents contact me, I am quite informal with them. I will have I have a WhatsApp contact. I don't think that informal equates to unprofessional. So just be yourself. You know, you do you, and it'll flow so much more easily than trying to be something that you're not.
Thanks, Vicky. And I think Andy, are you last? Sorry.
Yeah.
Amazing. Andy, please. Sorry.
I totally agree with all those comments. Yeah, so I'll try and pick up some kind of final business nuts and bolts, really. So I have really defined my kind of working week. That has been critical for me in the last couple of years. I always go to the gym kind of 2 or 3 times a week. So kind of don't really start till 10 o'clock. I pick up my son at kind of 3 o'clock, 3 days a week. So I only have 2 long days, and Calendly has been very good for kind of structuring my calls. So I don't really like working evenings. I don't work weekends, and it is possible to get it into a 25-hour week. This, obviously I've got support as well, but the other thing I was going to say is you do spread yourself across the whole week to start with, and some people like that. That's fine. But that doesn't really work for me and my life. So you've got to really kind of protect your time, because it can swamp you. The other thing is sales. You know, like Kirsty said, you are running a recruitment agency, and you are also, if you're kind of taking all the calls, in charge of sales. So getting some sales training has been game changing for me. I've done loads of different courses, loads of different styles, and you'll find your conversational way. I really enjoy selling other people. It's easier than selling yourself, for sure, once you know their qualities. And it's very satisfying when you get that match right. Just a few other bits on numbers. Everybody, I would say, that I've heard who runs a tuition business just goes too cheap to start with, and they don't look at the margins properly, and it's quite hard to undo that because people get used to a price. So I think you've really got to look at what the value of not just yourself but your tutors are, and I really value my tutors and try and pay them above average rates, and it helps in the long run because the families you work with just expect that rate. And putting the price up every year, a lot of people do not do that, and you have to do that because your tutors expect it. Actually, families expect it, and you don't get too many complaints, I'll be honest, if you do it in the right way. The other thing is, don't see agencies as competition. I think I work with a lot of agencies. I've done a lot of policy development. We send referrals to each other, and it's been very satisfying actually working with other agencies. And finally, if you are a tutor of a niche subject, I'm just picking these two out, and Latin and RS, I know some very full people of those subjects. It's not just maths, English and science. If you get your niche right, like Mandeep said, and you're not too cheap, that is critical, you will get plenty of inquiries and they will keep coming. It's just finding a rich vein, and if you do it too cheap, sadly, you are in a very busy world. So that's my kind of final advice, but it's very enjoyable when you get it right. If you get your systems and processes right and you enjoy kind of running a business, I wouldn't give it up for anything.
Thank you all, and thank you so much for joining our panel this morning as well. I'm quite conscious that we have overrun, but I think in the grand scheme of things, actually the session has run really well. For anybody that does have any questions, is there anybody who would like to put up the hand and ask either on anything that has been said so far, or if you have a different question for any of our panelists? Will, you're muted. Oh, you've gone.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now, yeah.
Sorry, I was changing rooms, so I was rushing around. Sorry about that. First of all, thanks very much to all the panelists and yourself, Sam, because this was a really informative webinar, and very clear and honest answers as well, which is really positive. Sorry, I'm a bit out of breath. I had a sort of a few questions. I'll try and sort of condense them into one. One thing I wanted to mention is that both Mandeep and Andy, you mentioned about having a good eye for what makes a good educator, or how do you match people up with the right tutor. So I guess my question would be sort of, what is it that makes a good educator, do you think, and what do you look at when you're matching up a student to their tutor, their prospective tutor? And then the other thing I was just wanting to sort of pick up on as well is, Andy, you mentioned that there's a right way to put your price up year upon year, and I wondered what that was exactly, or if you could sort of give a bit of an overview into that. So yeah, sorry, that's a bit of a wordy one, and I'm conscious that I'm out of breath, but yeah, thanks again, guys.
Shall I just start, Mandeep, and then you can take over? So pricing, I send an email out every July to all my parents that are carrying on, and I tell them that it's going to increase by a certain amount of money, and it's only usually £2, £3, £4 or £5, and I just say, without emotion, this is going to be the new price from September. And I don't get too many replies. You sometimes get people saying, "Oh, we're just going to have a think about it and whether we're going to continue," but you don't actually get a reply saying, "I can't handle that small increase." But if you don't do those small increases and you leave it for years, when you realize you're bleeding cash, you can't do it, and that's when you'll get resistance. So it's got to be a short, friendly email, and you just state the facts. About the matching, yeah, I think you've got to just know your tutors really well. You know their personalities, and one of my tutors always says, "Just play to my strengths, Andy." You know, don't put me in situations that I just know I'm not going to. You know, you just know the pattern of how your tutors interact with families, and you can kind of not pigeonhole, but you kind of have buckets of parents, so you'll have different types and demands, like Mandeep was talking about earlier, and you just know. Yeah, it's all personality driven, I would say, really, as well as their skills.
Yeah, just to add to that super quickly, I do the exact same thing as Andy mentioned every year, and I think be unapologetic with no emotion. I think even when you're trying to pitch prices, for example, if you kind of are around the bush and say, oh yeah, you know, we'd like to offer £50 if that's okay with you, then obviously they're going to be like, what? But if you go and say, my price is £75 an hour, this is what we offer, boom, then you go in with that confidence and they're going to expect that's the norm. So I think be totally unapologetic with it. And it's scary the first time you do it, but there's a whole psychology behind that I'm more than happy to talk to you about offline. In terms of how to find a good tutor, I always make them do a mock lesson with me. So I'm the student, and this is amazing when it's not maths related, because I'm a maths tutor, because I have no idea about GCSE biology, God forbid anything to do with English. So they have a real job where I'm genuinely, I don't know what's going on. So a few things I'll look for is, can they explain things to me as someone that has no idea? Can they break really hard things down? And it's interesting, we have a lot of Oxbridge graduates that really overcomplicate things, and I don't take them on because they can't break things down. And even basic things, like, are they really clear in their communication? Do they tell me what to write down as notes and what I should be listening to? Do they give me time to think, or are they just babbling on for half an hour? And respectfully, some teachers don't have that skill. So it's not necessarily someone that has a qualification or not. I'm more than happy to send you a checklist of things that I look for within that lesson, and that are normally good guides. And also, I want to think, even just from someone applying, how are they emailing? How are they getting in touch? Are they messaging me saying, hi, I'm looking for a job? Or does someone actually become quite proactive and saying, hi, Mandeep, this is what I offer, these are my exam boards? Does someone have that kind of drive? Because that's a really good insight as to how they'll act with you, your clients, and whether or not you're going to be micromanaging, which is something that none of us have time for.
I think that's a really interesting point as well. And I think it kind of loops back to an earlier point as well, in that whilst we are a really supportive community, nobody's really ever going to give you anything for free. So being proactive. I mean, I had a conversation with a corporate member this week who said that somebody called him and basically just said, can I have your whole contact list? And was expecting. And it's just kind of like, these people will help you and they'll mentor you and they will give you all of the answers for the questions that you that you actually really, really, really want to solve. But nobody's going to make your business for you. They're not going to, you know, get you your clients and get you all of the things that you need. You need to be proactive and have the drive to do those bits yourself. But when you ask the right questions and you talk to the right people and you have a plan in place, I think these are the really important things that at the end help you to get what you need, and people, I think, will just support you to the end of the earth for that. Amazing. Geraldine, you have a question.
Yeah, thanks everyone for a great session. My question is, being at school for many years and being a bit like you, Vicki, don't like anyone telling me what to do, and it's now, you know, I've built up my own tuition business. I'm very niche. How do I, it's a mindset thing, this, I suspect. How do I now go about employing others when it's like, oh, this is my baby, I'm not sure I want to, you know, how do you do that? Any help, tips?
Shall I jump in? So I think, first of all, do you actually want to? So, yeah. And why do you want to? So have a look at that and have a chat with yourself about that. But so it is a bit of a leap, isn't it, of faith. And I suppose one thing that you could, you know, to switch your mindset would be, well, if you do this, what is the outcome going to be? Like, what will you get out of it? And you know, I do try to be very like, what's the best that can happen, rather than the other way. So you know, sort of remind yourself like what the end goal is. And you know, sometimes it will be a mistake and people don't fit in or gel with you, and that's okay. You know, you can let them go, find someone else. So
it's like those red flag parents, isn't it, that you have to let go? And yeah,
exactly. So, but I'm sure, you know, I know you, but when you meet somebody and you chat with them, you do get a gut feeling sort of idea. Are they on the same wavelength of you? And I would really trust that. And if you do feel that like, oh, I'm not really sure, you know, do listen to that as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
We also have a Lessons from TTA Members webinar on Teacher to Tutor on Monday, the 9th of March at midday as well, which might be worth joining. And I do wonder in some cases if people are putting a lot of almost like emphasis as if you have to start a business when you either leave teaching or if you're just becoming a tutor. But we also have a lot of corporate members. Obviously, all of the panelists today hire tutors and they do all of the marketing for you, all of the safeguarding. So sometimes I think it's also relevant to think about if you are coming into tuition, and especially if you're leaving a career where you're trying to match your salary somewhere, and just make sure that you don't have a lot of stress from trying to meet certain, thresholds that you need to just consider doing some work for some of our corporate members or just any agencies in the first instance, and then you can start thinking about your brand, and you'll have made a couple of connections with people, you'll have a community as well. So I feel like that is hopefully a good and useful point to add in as well. Daisy, you are next.
Hi, thank you everyone on the panel. Sorry, I really have a terrible cold. But a few things I do want to ask. I know I have had this similar, but obviously with some experts here, I wanted to ask this question. I just been teaching myself, and I've been tutoring while I've been teaching for so many years. It's just that last year, I've decided to go solo and focus on just tutoring. So I had this idea of trying to build a business by getting people in. I struggle having my clients. I don't know, with some of you, I think maybe you just went in straight into the business. I'm struggling having some of my clients try to pivot to my tutors. Rather, they're happy to be on a waiting list than pivoting to tutors that I feel are really highly qualified to do what I'll do. I don't know how you navigate that. Part of the reason I'm trying to navigate that is that I'm going back to uni. Some of you said you're going back to study your master's. I'm going to do my research program. So I kind of want to lighten the load myself and, hand over to these incredible tutors that I've already vetted, and they're on my platform, and getting parents to okay, yes, you've known me for so long, but these people are quite capable of doing it. And secondly, is to know if it's something TTA does or you people do personally, like if there's a mentor partnership people have going on. I don't know. It'd be nice to know if there's kind of a mentor partnership to help.
I can talk on the first point if that's helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the same shift from, tutor to bringing people on board. And I had the same problem as well, where people wanted me because it was my reputation, and people still do sometimes ask for me. But I think it was a little bit of a mind, a thinking shift and a little bit of a branding shift. So I stopped talking about me and I started talking about us, and I stopped saying I and I started saying we. So when I was talking to parents, I'm introducing, our team, our specialist educators, our specialist tutors, and just changing the expectation in the conversations and everything that I'm putting out there, on our website and social media and everything like that. So it's not so focused on me, it's more focused on us. And I do still have some clients that I have that established relationship with, and I still enjoy working with the students, and they probably will still be with me for years. But when new clients come in now, they don't expect to speak to me. And I think that's just you can make the shift, and then gradually the clients will follow as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Kirsty. Did anyone else want to add anything else there?
Yeah, I think just appreciate it takes time. And as Kirsty's hit it bang on the head, stop talking about yourself. So like for me, I had to stop saying Mandeep and I had to start saying the scholar. So yeah, it takes time, just, and you will get more comfortable with it.
Thank you.
I think it's a nice thing though, because if you've obviously built something that everybody loves and they love you and they've seen your passion, it's a nice problem to have, at least. But people don't want anybody else, they only want you.
Well, it'd be nice to shift it.
I can give a little bit of advice about the mentoring as well. Not within the TTA. I don't know that you offer that, but I did the Santander Women's Business Leaders mentoring scheme, which was recommended to me by another TTA member, actually, Callie. And that was a free mentoring scheme. It's 9 months and you get coaching and workshops, and other banks do that as well. And Andy also mentioned the growth hubs. So there are it doesn't necessarily have to be within the tutoring industry. I think it's quite good to go outside of the tutoring industry and get some business mentoring and coaching.
Okay.
Just sorry, if I just add briefly, Sam, if that's okay. From TTA, I know Adaise, we spoke about this at the TTA Q&A.
Yeah,
I think it's a great problem to have in a way, because obviously it's a very good compliment that you're so popular amongst all of your clients. What we don't have a dedicated mentoring team within TTA. We don't offer mentoring as a specific part of the membership benefits, but there are lots of people out there within the TTA membership who we can help you to connect with. Our role is not to tell you everything you must do or should not do, apart from the code of practice, which is the minimum standards. But there are mentors within TTA's community, and you'll have met new people probably on this call. There's people like Anna and Bika Pindoria who's done this as well in the past. There's people like Richard Cowell, who works on these kinds of things. There are people that are that do offer this kind of support, and again, a lot of people like Kirsty and Mandeep, Vicki and Andy, they've all got this kind of experience, having gone down that road themselves. So we are just supportive to try and help you find the right person for you. We don't feel like we need to match make for you or try and make your decision, but if you can find somebody and they're willing to help you, and you're happy, you think they're going to be able to support you, then please use each other as a support network. Because one of the best things about TTA is not actually some of the things that TTA does, is what we facilitate you to do with each other. Okay. The fact that you guys all come, follow the same code of practice, and know you're all going to follow the same rules, you all engage with each other in good faith, right? This is what's really a really good thing about TTA that I cannot take any credit for at all, right? It's not my benefit that Vicki and Kirsty and Mandeep and Andy have all got these great ideas and they're willing to share. Okay, I don't have any part in that. Sam's helped to organize. It's very, very grateful for Sam to organize these things, but these people have got a load of expertise. So I'll just say to everyone, capitalize on being in the membership and networking with people and understanding and asking them questions. And if it develops into a more integrated, close relationship where you say, yeah, please, can you give me some mentoring and maybe I'll pay some amount or whatever it is that you agree between you, then that's a great thing. So just make sure you use up the membership, because there's a lot of people out there that are generous and supportive of each other. And that's what I'm really pleased to see. Sorry, Sam, to take up a bit of time at the end. I know we're running over. And thank you so much, guys. It's a great session so far. Loads of good engagement. I'm really pleased to have you all come on.
Right, I think we've got our two final questions. So Jana, sorry, I hope I've said your name correctly. Oh, you're muted still. There we go.
So my husband and I started a tuition centre 21 years ago now, and that's been going really well. But now in the last few years, we've acquired quite a few other centres. So we now have 4 centres, and we're now trying to really amalgamate it and run it, from the same systems, because at the moment it's a bit difficulty with different systems. So I just wanted to ask, payment wise, what did you guys find? Because we've got a CRM system that we've been using, but we've got MemberMeister on another one. So it's we just want to try and put it all together and change it all and start on a new system. So what did you guys find? What do you use? What is a really good kind of a payment system so we're looking at something that will integrate with the timetable. So it will say, this child has got 4 lessons on a Monday and 3 lessons on a Friday for February. In March is going to be different, but it's so that it reads the timetable, if you know what I mean, and then get an invoice together so we can just send it out. Does any of you have a suggestion of what you're using?
I don't mind answering that. So I'm aware of the Tutor Cruncher and Tutor Bird, both do that. In what I do personally with my invoices, though, is I do like a monthly set fee. So every month it's the same amount, and parents are aware of that when they sign up. So I don't charge per lesson, and that has been absolutely life-changing for my business in terms of really cuts down on the admin side of things. The invoices then are all just automated through, and I use Free Agent, which then obviously is like the accountancy software that everything, so for your tax returns and all that it's all there already. So it integrates really well, and that is my absolute preference, is just that, like, have it the same every single month so that it's no messing about when it's school holidays, or you know, so just like pro rata it across the whole year. That's what I do anyway, and it works really well for me.
I agree. So our old centre, that we do exactly that, and that really works well. But we are open for 48 weeks of the year, so it really works beautifully. It's all the new centres that we now have has all got different. So the one, you know, and it's really quite hard to change people's,
Okay.
payment method. And yeah, so some of the other centres aren't open throughout the holidays. So
yeah.
So
See, I
yeah,
don't open in the holidays. So I just average it out across the whole year. I mean, and it's like it's with any kind of like change or pain point. It's like it might be a bit tricky initially because you've got to do the changeover, and you've got to communicate that, like, we are moving to this new way of charging. So you communicate that, and then people will either say, okay, great. Most people will. There might be some people who say, push back, and potentially, I mean, I've not had any problems with that. You just tell parents, like, this is the way it is, and they pretty much go, okay, no problem. Sometimes I have to explain when it's the same every month, and they're like, but we've had 2 weeks off, and I just go through the reason why again, and everyone's happy with that.
Thanks, Vicki. Also, just circling back to the very, very beginning. So in terms of platforms that you can use, we in the member area, if you log in, I hope the link I sent in the chat is the right one, but it's the admin side of things, so it might not actually work for you. But if you log into your member area, there's a discounts tab, and that shows all of the TPA partners and the discounts they provide to you. So we have Wise, Tutor Cruncher, Tutorbird, off the top of my head. Apologies if I have forgotten any other like management systems, but they all have discounts for TTA members as well. So it's definitely worth having a look in the at the TTA partners, not just for tutor management, but just at all of the partners that we work with that would have some sort of a solution to offer to you as well.
Yeah, no, I've looked at all of them, but I was just interested to hear what the others are using that has got big tuition businesses and centres.
Amazing. Faye, you're our last question.
Yes, hello there. So do you have a list of documents that you require from your new tutors? So like the DBS, teaching qualification certificate, if you hire qualified teachers. And then in terms of paying them, so we teach in person, and every tutor teaches anywhere from 1 to 3 students. So we pay our tutors a set price or a set rate for 1 student, then for 2, then for 3. But do any of you have a different way of doing it? Because we need to make sure we actually kind of make profit. So we can't pay our tutors more than we would get if they only had 1 student.
I was going to say I could answer your first question. The safer recruitment question, sorry. Yes, we do, and it's very long. It's not a list so much, but we've again, Lucy's helped me with this. So we've created an Airtable that's linked with a fill out form, and it's basically the safer recruitment procedure that you would get if you worked in a school. So it's a very long list of evidence of, qualifications, DBS check. We use a system, RefNow, which automates referencing, and that's all kept on file in line with GDPR. So that's quite a big system.
Just separately, has anybody done Holly's tuition business course? Does that cover the majority of it or not? So I haven't done the course, so I'm not. Is the safeguarding course entirely different for tuition businesses, or does that cover? I'm sure it covers safer recruitment.
I think it covers most of it, but I think you have to then spend time looking at the safe recruitment separately. I think the safe recruitment is a bit more of like a compliance system, in comparison to safeguarding, which is a bit more of an active thing that you do in your business.
Yeah. Does any of the panel have anything else to add for Faye?
I can add something if you want. Sorry.
Sorry, Andy. Go on.
Yeah, I did all my recruiting myself, did all my DBS checks. I used some software to do kind of reference checks, and I could facilitate DBSs. But eventually, I do use Tutor Onboarder now, and that just keeps everything in one place. Takes a bit of kind of tweaking to your needs, but yeah. Matthew, it's not Matthew.
It is Matthew.
It's Matthew. Sorry, yeah, Matthew and Noor. They have got some really good webinars where they basically run through the whole process, and that's where I kind of started my journey. Was auditing what they suggested, and then what I'm doing. I actually worked with another agency, a really great lady called Caroline Learn and Bloom. She's a TTA member, and we basically just looked at safeguarding together over about a year, and we just aligned our practices. And then I just got Tutor Onboarder after that. So working with another agency on this is it worked for me anyway.
Thank you. For Tutor Onboarder as well. So obviously you might need this a little bit sooner, but for anybody who might be watching the recording or who might just have it on their horizon, they are also exhibiting at the National Tutors Conference again this year. So you'll be able to, so in the National Tutors Conference, for anybody who hasn't been, is the kind of like the largest CPD day. We have 5 different stages, but we also have the largest exhibition for the tuition sector. So this year we are aiming to have over 40 exhibitors, where on the day you can go, whether or not you're a tutor, a tuition business, and you can basically do all of your shopping and demoing and trialing on the day. We have publishers with workbooks, we have solutions. It's the place to be for all of the talks that are going on, for all of the networking, but equally, if you are looking just to look for new solutions or new platforms or new products, it's also a place to be for that as well. So it's definitely worth putting in the calendar and getting a ticket if you haven't yet. But yeah, amazing. Is there anything else anybody would like to add? Otherwise, I will close. Perfect. Thank you so much to our panel for joining us this morning. So thank you, Mandeep. Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you, Andy. And thank you, Vicki. I really appreciate you setting aside the time for us. And I really hope everybody who has joined has found this really, really useful. I don't usually ask for very specific feedback on a session, but if anybody would like to email me just on how they think that this went, if the format worked, I would love to hear your thoughts. I think it worked really well. I think maybe we just need an hour and a half for the other ones as well, because there's just so much to say, and condensing that can sometimes really lose the message as well, can't it? So yeah, thank you all so much for coming. Don't forget, for today, it's the TTA Community Day. So if you're a TTA member, go and get your members logo from the member area and start posting on social medias, and me and Kathleen are going to be liking, commenting, resharing, helping you to network, connect, and get some extra visibility today. But the amount of posts coming through at the minute, like, I feel like that's just not, it's not going to be a 5 o'clock finish, but never mind. We are loving seeing everybody's kind of like reasons for being part of TTA as well. And all of the posts. So definitely go and grab a cup of tea and then get on that as well. Thank you all so much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.